Hello, everybody. Welcome along to your Monday night Rangers Rabble Phone In. The phone lines will be open very, very soon. But yeah, hello, welcome. Tonight I am joined by Mark, Wolf, and Scotty. Gentlemen, good evening. Hello, welcome. Just a couple of quick things, and I forgot to put it in the description, but I will as the show goes on. When I know somebody's talking and I'm not going to stop. So as soon as Wolf starts talking, I'll go and do it. We recently done, William recently done an interview with Zeb Jacobs, who's the head of the Rangers Academy. It lasts about half an hour, so it's a wee bite-sized interview, but he goes into a lot of detail about his role, about how he sees the youth progressing. So if that's something you're interested in, the link will be shortly in the description. And for our members as well, Stu recently done an interview with Jimmy Gibson, former Rangers player Jimmy Gibson. Championship manager players, or maybe was it football manager? Championship manager probably will remember Jimmy Gibson. It will be available shortly to everybody on YouTube, but if you want to see that now, then do consider joining as a member. And we've got two more, one definite interview coming up and one possible interview coming up in the near future as well. So plenty of content coming your way during the World Cup. We are just under, I think, 100 subscribers away from 7,000 on YouTube. So if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. Give the show a wee like on YouTube and the rest of the platforms, Facebook and Twitter as well. Give us a wee share, like, retweet, and all that good stuff. The phone lines will be open very, very soon. I think, gentlemen, there's only really one place to start. There's a couple of places we could start. We could start with the St Johnstone game. How we go at that. We could go straight in and preview Hearts. We could go and do that. Or we could talk about the situation with our manager, board, director of football, Ross Wilson. So, Mark, where would you like to start?
I think you need to start with the biggest issue affecting our club at the moment. I think that the manager, the board, director of football, it's just a shambles, absolute shambles, and it pains me. I take no great pleasure in saying it. I've been talking about the slide for weeks now, absolutely weeks, and the way that the team has gradually got worse and worse and worse. Now, I've said it, I'm blue in the face saying it. Once that slide starts, it only ends one way. And for me, the board need to act now before it's all right. We're 7 points, but it's not even about the points anymore. It's about the fact that I don't know a single Rangers fan, any of my mates, that are even backing Gio in the slightest, never mind Ross Wilson or the board. So, I mean, they really, really need to read the room and do, all right, it's going to cost money. But hey, we get money for Gerrard. When he left, we get compensation. So surely that softens the blow, does it not? For me, something needs to be done now before we are spending the rest of this season doom and gloom the way we have. See, the last 2 months, it's not been fun, especially not coming on here and regurgitating the same old crap over and over and over again. We don't want to be negative. We want to be here having a laugh and a joke and talking about the team we love. And that's not what's happening. As I said, this board need to act now.
They do, Wolf. They need to act, and they need to act El Pronto. Probably the most frustrating. Well, I don't know if it's the most frustrating thing, but one of the frustrating things is there's been loads of fan outcry. Right, I would say the majority of fans want Gio out. I don't really know how to word this question. It's the silence for the board, either backing the manager or coming out and saying, look, we're having a look at the situation, we're speaking with Gio, anything at all, that it is absolute and complete silence for the board.
Yeah, there's complete silence from the entire club. I don't think I've seen a tweet from the official club Twitter account since just after full time yesterday. Now, given the current situation, that's outrageous. I mean, it's all speculation, conjecture. A lot of people had lost faith in the manager long before yesterday, right? I was kind of wavering because I never like to call for any Rangers employee to go because I'm Mr. Positive when it comes to Rangers. Partly that makes me a bit weird, but that's just a Twitter thing, I suppose. But they've come out, they've said absolutely nothing. Anybody that was in support of the manager isn't anymore. I mean, I haven't seen or heard from anybody that says it's okay, he'll get it right, because he won't. It's gone. He's a dead man walking. Whatever happens, right? The current manager is one bad result away from getting the sack. Right now, the board have to realise that. So, given that, they're as well acting now. They're as well pulling the trigger now. Yeah, they could wait. We could beat Hearts. We could beat St Mirren. We could go into the winter break, the World Cup break, sorry, and come back and beat Hibs with the current manager still in place. That could happen. Then we could go on and beat Aberdeen. That could happen, but we'll lose points somewhere along the line. And then they'll be in the same situation they're in now. So they're as well pulling the trigger now, getting somebody to look after the team for the next couple of games, and getting a new manager in over the 5-week World Cup break. I mean, I believe they've organised a trip abroad somewhere. That will give them time to get to know the manager time to get to know them. The thing that concerns me is not the fact that they get rid of the manager, because if they do, that's what everybody wants to do, right? Director of football has to go as well, because he's been an absolute car crash, right? Nothing he's done seems to have worked, right? It concerns me that with Ross Wilson still in situ, there's a manager become available today who's the cheap and easy, well, probably won't be cheap, but it'll be an easy option. Now, looking at our recent negotiations, looking at what we've got in the squad, we've got about six players going out of contract this season, at the end of this season, if you take the 2 loan players out of it. The easy option last summer was to re-sign Alan McGregor, saved you buying a goalkeeper, so we re-signed Alan McGregor. We re-signed two ageing midfield players. Shouldn't have re-signed them both. Re-sign either Davis or Arfield, not both of them. Again, that was the easy option. So if they get rid of Van Bronckhorst, which won't be the easy option now for Ross Wilson is to employ a manager that he knows. And a manager that he knows has just been let go by Southampton. And that worries me. Absolutely. I don't think he would come, but it worries me. Because I don't know how close they were to each other. He could say, come and help me out for 6 months. Be interim manager at the end of the season, whatever. That could happen. I wouldn't put anything against anything. I wouldn't put anything against this board. I think they, because they would probably think as a Premiership manager it would appease the support, but it wouldn't work. It seems to me that everything's got to be the cheap option. I mean, the AGM was announced today as being on the 6th of December. 6th of December, 7th of December, something like that. Unfortunately, I can't go because I've run out of holidays with all the European football this season. But it's going to be very, very toxic. It's going to be horrible. Particularly if the current manager's still in situ. I mean, there's also rumours of a friendly against Bayer Leverkusen towards the end of the World Cup break, 10th of December. I've heard muted. If that's the case and the current manager's still in situ, that's when the supporters will voice their opinions, because they'll struggle to sell tickets for that. I mean, there's a lot of people saying, look, boycott the games. No point in boycotting the games because you've already paid your season ticket. That's not going to affect the board. That's not going to affect the income they've got. They've already got your money. They've already trousered the money. That's why they'll just bumble away, because they know that the money's already in the bag. If people don't come, people won't come. No, it's December time. People don't come because it's getting towards Christmas and it's this and it's that and it's the next. And there's always reasons for folk not going to football that they can come up with. It's not affecting them in the pocket. What would be helpful from the point of view of getting the message across would be a cup tie in a couple of weeks' time where people have to buy tickets. But unfortunately, we're not in that situation. The both have to. I hate saying this. I hate criticising Rangers. Absolutely detest it, as you guys all know. Right? And I hate calling for the head of a manager. But they've lost. Any support he had is gone. I haven't seen or heard of a single person who still thinks that the current management team can turn it around. And beep, boop. Yeah, I know Kevin Muscat's just won the J League with...
Listen, I'm going to stop you there. Wait a minute, I'm going to stop you. See this whole us looking at managers, right? This manager, that manager for that league, this league, right? We can all talk about it, right? But that's not our job. That's the job of Ross Wilson, right?
I'm sorry, totally cut across it. That's what worries me.
I know, but Ross Wilson's supposed job was to be, when Gerrard was on the way out, he'd have somebody else lined up. When Gio came in, he would be constantly looking at other people, so that if Gio was to leave at any point, then there's another manager that comes straight in the door. That's Ross Wilson's job, and like you say, well, that is what terrifies me. I'm going to open the phone lines right now. Just before I take a caller, though, Scotty, how bad is it right now? How bad a position are Rangers in with regards to the board, director of football, manager, and how has it got to this?
The optics aren't good at all. But like, there's so many angles and there's so many things to consider. First of all, we're not going to hear from the board. We're not going to hear from the board saying we're going to address the situation. We're not going to hear saying Gio's safe. I mean, that's the dreaded vote of confidence. That means jack shit. What actually we've needed for a long time is an understanding of the direction where we want the club to actually go. And we don't have that. And I've said this for ages. Like, can't really disagree with what anyone's said already and been banging the drum saying, do you know what, weeks ago, Gio was one bad result away from getting the sack, but we've had a few and he's still in the job. Now, things that may be outside of our remit that we aren't actually aware of. There are rumours of directors leaving, selling shareholdings and various bits, and that may be a factor into what happens next for the football club. But again, we're not going to hear it. The board are not going to come out and say it, because that just ruins the integrity of the whole process of what's going on. So maybe that's happening. And this isn't me trying to make excuses, because it is a complete mess that we're in. And it's really obvious why we're in this mess. Like, we can point to the leadership at the top. Even years ago, when we were looking, we were saying, right, okay, well, we don't feel like Stuart Robertson's the best man to be managing director of Rangers Football Club. He's still in the position. He seems like a complete yes man, or just whatever he is. He doesn't feel particularly strong at the helm. This is the guy that's in charge of the running of the football club. Then we have Ross Wilson, who has just been a complete disaster. It seems that any material decision that he has made has been wrong. Then we look at the management and we go, right, okay, well, let's face it, when Gerrard was here and in the season after 55, he looked disinterested. The players looked disinterested, and that feeds through. And then Gio's come in. And this is the problem with sticking with Gio to the end of the season. Even when we were winning, we were bored. The football was crap. We weren't interested. It was masked by this European run, which on the face of it, if we're lucky, barring Dortmund away, dismal. The tactics were crap. We got beat in, I can't remember, the 3-1 game, Cerveza, whatever it is. Yeah. No, the European run. And, Leipzig should have tanked us about 5-0 in Leipzig, but they didn't. We got away with a 1-0. We brought that back. Braga should have beaten us by a few. We didn't, and we brought that back.
Against PSV.
Exactly. So we've had all these things that have masked and perhaps kept Gio in a job longer than he should have been. But fundamentally, it doesn't change the fact that if we can all see it, why is nothing happening? I don't want an interim manager in charge to the end of the season, because that is the role of the director of football. We all talked about when Ross Wilson came in, he was supposed to be this amazing guy with this black book or black box. It's empty, because when Gerrard left, you'd think that he was supposed to have a few managers on a short list to come in. We ended up with Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who was coincidentally the only free manager with a Rangers connection there, with a bit of experience, and he passed the interview process. I'd love to know what that interview process was. How bad is it? We've gone from a position of winning the title, getting excited about the Champions League, to going, we'll be lucky to finish within 20 points of Celtic. A clear transfer strategy, despite this supposed player trading model. We've supposedly don't have cash in the bank, which that's a complete lie. It is just a lie, and whatever comes out in the accounts, I don't really care. Are you saying my sound's crap now?
I've had Walter waiting on the phone for 4 minutes. I don't think I can keep him waiting any longer. My apologies. Walter, how are you doing?
That's all right. I was enjoying Scotty's monologue there for Hamlet there. It was not too bad. I'm not a fan of the green and white wallpaper in the background right now.
Listen, can I address this? This is blue. I do not know why it comes across as what it does. And it doesn't even look green from my screen. It's blue. I promise you it's blue.
Liar. It's green. Definitely green.
Well,
listen,
anyway, the point I was trying to get to, Scotty, it was kind of a lot today with what you were touching on there. You set me up quite well. It's about leadership or lack of leadership within the club, from top to bottom. And I'm just going to go through several guys at the moment. The first one is Douglas Park, who is the chairman. He is the invisible man. Nobody sees or hears for that guy. The only time you see or hear for Dougie Park is when one of his buses drive by you. The man is completely anonymous. And then we have John Bennett, who served us up that drivel in a YouTube video a couple of weeks back, where he told us all that this was the best squad that we've ever built. Now, look at the league table, or in fact, even look at the 31 games that there's been since this year. In the 31 games, if you make that the league table and the difference between Celtic and Rangers, Celtic sit on 84 points and Rangers sit on 67. Celtic have 27 wins and Rangers have 20. They have 3 draws, we have 7. They have 1 league loss, we have 4. They're sitting on a goal difference of plus 75, and we're sitting on a goal difference of plus 39. Now, that to me isn't the best squad we've ever had. Now, you take that for a league team that went an unbeaten league season and won a title, and now look at us, absolute cannon fodder to bottom 6 teams at home, struggling. You know what I mean? It's unacceptable. The manager, he's defeatist in nature. He comes out after the Ajax game and says, we can't compete at this level. What kind of message does that send in the dressing room? And if you look at John Lundstrom yesterday, when he pulled out that challenge on the halfway line, which eventually led to the first goal after he tried to pass the ball to Sakala, what Rangers manager in years gone by would allow that? That is completely unacceptable. That should never happen. Now, I remember back to Dick Advocaat hooting Craig Moore off the park against Kilmarnock at home after 19 minutes because he had 2 or 3 horrendous passes, and I think it was Christoph Kokard at the time had got in behind him. That's the standards you set as a Rangers manager. John Lundstrom should have been hauled off the park regardless of who was on the bench yesterday. The standard should be set by the manager, and if the manager's allowing that to be acceptable from one player, then that spreads the message throughout the squad that anything goes. The captain has been underperforming the whole season. Whether there's injuries there or no, they've come out and said there's no, so we need to accept that, right? But his level of performance is absolutely disgusting, right? The amount of goals that we leak down the right-hand side is absolutely abysmal. Teams target us down there. 2 weeks ago, the Livingston left back strolled by him. Yesterday, when Giovanni took Ben Davis off, Leon King was the one sole centre half, and he had Tavernier and Barisic beside him, right? Tavernier is the senior pro at the back there. He has got to be the organiser. We switch off for a throw-in, and then what happens? The same thing that happened at Parkhead. The striker cuts in front of Barisic on the blind side and they score. How many times is that going to be allowed to happen? I just want to know, when does this become unacceptable to us as a supporters group? When do we start demanding change? Because it's not just one thing, it is a whole collective, and it can't be allowed to continue.
Amen. To that, Mark. Look, talking about the Gio, with the Lundstrom thing, allowing that to happen. Not being the most, I don't even know professional, because he's professional probably in a different way to than what we know as a Rangers manager. But if that's the standard that Gio's allowing to set, what's the standard that the board are allowing the club to be set in? Because all we heard was John Bennett, and do you know what? Look, I think everybody knows that before I was doing the job that I was doing just now, I was a bus driver, right? And I drove for Parks of Hamilton, right? But I'm quite more than happy to slate Dougie Parker. I don't think he's a good chairman. I don't think he's a nice man. I've not got a lot. I've only met him once, but the times I have met him, not got a great deal of time for him, Mark. So that's me never getting a job at Parks of Hamilton again. But the standards that the managers are allowing to set says a lot to me that the board are allowing the standards to slip as well.
To be fair, I've said this in the past. I think the board are just happy to swan about saying that they're the director and they're the chairman of the club. I think they're living on that kind of that kudos that they get from being attached to the club in that way. For me, they're not doing their job. Simple as that. For the Gio one as well, Gio for me has not got the personality or the character to be a Rangers manager. I think we all see that. Lovely guy, but do you know what? We don't need a lovely guy. We need somebody that's going to get in there and tell it like it is, stick a rocket up a few players' arses when they need to be done. I just don't see Gio doing that. I can't see Gio reading the riot act at half time. I really, really cannot see it. For me, they say that they get into people even when they sign players. It's we look at their personality and they look at their character and this and that, and it's a whole package. For me, they've not looked at Gio's personality. Gio's a very, very quiet guy. He's professional, but for me, it does not inspire me. Many times of any has all sat and watched one of his press conferences, I always end up looking at my phone and stuff like that. Whereas previous managers, you were always interested in what he had to say. You're always interested in them seeing a wee bit of passion there. For me, it looks as if half the time Gio's going to start crying. So for me, the character and personality of the man is a massive part of being a leader and a manager, and especially at a club like Rangers. So for me, the board have no done their homework properly. Don't get me wrong, we were all over the moon when Van Bronckhorst get appointed. And that's all right. But we're allowed to be over the moon because do you know what? He's a Rangers man. He's won a couple of titles. He's won a bit of silverware. He's done all right as a manager, and he's coming into our club. So we're going to back him no matter what. But the reality is, he's not cutting the mustard. It's as simple as that. And the board need to be looking at that. I said a while ago and all that it's the board's responsibility to be looking at how to replace and who we're going to replace. They should have been doing that months ago, 2 months ago, when things started to slide. They should have started doing that. It's their responsibility, and if they've not done it, then there's something far, far wrong. Because at the end of the day, see if I was in the board, or if I was the chairman, as soon as it started sliding, I'd be saying to ourselves, right, look, this might not go the way we want it to go. Hopefully it does, but let's get something in place. Let's get something in place that we can go, right, if it goes Pete Tong, we can get him shifted out and we can bring him in. Let's start talking to people. Let's start sounding people out regarding, see if a job became available, would you be interested? I.e., that's part and parcel of their job. If they're not doing that, there's something fundamentally wrong. As I said, for me, it's so frustrating. I think we all feel that as well. That your eyes don't lie. We are seeing what's on the park, and see if they're not seeing it. There's something even more wrong with what we think is wrong. As I said, this board need to have a really good look at themselves, as I said, because they should be pulling the trigger and doing something about this.
Walter, very, very quickly on Gio. I don't think Let's say, for talking's sake, we were sat here as Rangers fans discussing, I don't know, Manchester United, right? And Ten Hag wasn't doing a great job. All A fans were calling for his head. Us as supporters who don't care about that football club would be sitting going, well, why would Ten Hag walk out and leave all that money? Of course you would wait to be sacked. So as Rangers supporters, as painful as it is, to sit here, I don't think we can be angry at Gio for still being there and have that anger at Gio, if you understand what I'm saying. I think all of our anger now, because we can see that it's not working, has to be taken out on the board.
No, that's a fair point, Martin, but that's the problem with this Rangers board. They always act too late. You look back to the time where it was halfway through the first part of the season that we sacked Pedro Caixinha. We gave up on a whole league season and appointed Graham Murray at that point to be interim to the end of the season from November onwards then. And at that point, we actually got close to them. Remember the league game at Ibrox, it ended up being 3-2, right? See if we'd have took the gamble and actually got a right manager then, we could have gave them a run for their money at the end of the season. Instead of, in that time, we brought in guys like Jason Cummins, Jamie Murphy and Sean Goss. If we'd actually properly invested and had a board with a bit of foresight, we might have not seen them get to 9 in a row. But this is the problem with this Rangers board. It's always, they wait until your legs fell off before they take you to the hospital. And that's just unacceptable.
That's an absolutely great point. Walter, buddy, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take it easy, boys. All the best.
Speak to you soon. Have another caller straight on. Very, very busy tonight. Before I bring the caller in, there was a caller, Scott. You tried to phone a couple of times. If you phone back, buddy, I will try and get you on as soon as I can. So, yeah, caller ending 695. Hello, welcome to the Rabble.
Hi, I'm just phoning up. I'm listening to the boys. I go to Rangers games and I'm very disappointed in the team. Not this Gio, but something needs to happen, and I want to know what the board think about what's going to happen with us. Listen, Mr. Parks took all his money for the Europa League, and he's cornering us with buying fitness strips.
Obviously, I've made my feelings known about what I think about Dougie Park. However,
what I just want to know is, I do not work and I do not climb on the brew. I spend all my money to go and see Rangers. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yep.
So I'd like to know, when these players are playing for us, are they thinking, these are it? Listen, I give my heart to Rangers.
So basically, for what I can take from what you're saying is, of course, it's not working under Gio. The board need to do better. But at the end,
over Ross Wilson. Never mind Gio. Ross Wilson.
Aye, I was getting to that. What I'm saying is, we are talking about Gio, but at the end of the day, it's not just Gio. It's not just the board. It's Ross Wilson and the players that are on the park.
Yeah. So what? So
Wolf.
Martin, I think for me, it goes an awful lot deeper than that, because the buck stops with the manager. That's how football works, right? But the director of football is a shambles. I mean, we've said to we're long and weary that, as you said earlier, part of his job is to say, right, if this manager leaves, we've got somebody lined up to replace him. And they told us when they brought in Steven Gerrard that this is the type of manager we want that plays this type of football. So they bring in Gio van Bronckhorst, who plays a completely different game of football. Plays football in a completely different manner, and he's trying to play his game with somebody else's players, and it clearly doesn't work, right? The other problem we've got, and to me, it's a comparison between the manager and the board, right? They're not proactive; they're reactive. The board only act once something happens. They don't try and stop it happening. And Van Bronckhorst is exactly the same. He doesn't make substitutions. I mean, he goes 3 at the back yesterday, right? And as we said, why leave a young 18-year-old sitting there and take the experienced guy off when he's trying to be proactive? He's being reactive.
And the lefty wee boy King exposed at the back.
Mental
exposed.
Mental
ridiculous. For me, For me, guys, I think I looked at as soon as he made that substitution, I looked at the clock. Right, I was lucky enough to be or unlucky enough to be at the game, and I looked at the stadium clock and it said well, it's not really a stadium. But I looked at the clock and it said 60 minutes. Right now, to me, if he's making that substitution bang on an hour, I hope I'm wrong, but to me, he said to Ben Davies, "Listen, I'll give you an hour, and I'll take you off." It looks to me like he's given him an hour and taking him off. I don't think it would have mattered how that game was going yesterday. Ben Davies was coming off after an hour. Just my own personal thoughts, because he's got a habit of making substitutions of players that are coming back from injuries or struggling for form after an hour. It's as if he said to us, "Go and give me an hour and I'll take you off." That's no way to manage a football team, because it just doesn't work. He should just have went, "Right, okay, I'm going 3 at the back. Leon King, you've got to come off, because I can't leave you exposed, because I need somebody with a bit of experience in there." You know, and go back to the Tavernier point. I mean, you had James Tavernier in the European game. Now, apparently he's not injured. He's obviously just shit out of form. Right? But he gets injured. He got injured in the last European game, but hobbled his way through to the end of the game. The manager should be saying, "Look, I'm taking you off because you can hardly walk, and we've got a young guy here to take your place." If you're that young right back who's supposedly back up to the captain, and they won't take him off when he's on one leg, how does it make you feel? I mean, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely fucking ludicrous.
My apologies to the caller. I get cut off, and if I get cut off, the calls get cut off. If it happens one more time, then I will leave Scotty in charge of the hosting duties, and I will try and get the phone lines back in, and I will stay down in the producer's office because I'm getting really annoyed with my internet. And just as I say, really annoyed, we can bring in Curry. Curry, how you doing?
Hold on a sec, mate. Let me turn this off.
You should,
right,
you should be professional enough, Curry, to have that turned off before you phone.
Yeah, well, you don't usually put me through quite as quick, mate, so I wasn't ready.
Right, go for it, Curry.
Good to be start, as per usual. It's quite hard, actually, trying to pick a subject that's not already been discussed, because, as I think you've already said, or Bill said, and Mark said, it's 99.9% of Rangers fans are under the same thought, and that's probably unheard of. And the whole time that I can remember supporting Rangers, and all the good times and all the bad times, there was a lot of things that we disagreed on. It was either players were good, players were bad, managers were bad, managers were good. There was always a split. There's always been a split. As long as I can remember being a Rangers fan. Right now, I've never seen the Rangers support be so unified on how much they do not want Giovanni Bronckhorst to leave, Wilson sacked, a shake-up of the board, and for probably 80% of our players to be shifted at the club. I think that's unheard of. Mm-hmm. The one thing I'll try to put into perspective, giving Wilson a bit of leeway on the players that he's brought in should be good enough to be challenging for this league. So I reckon the players that he's brought in, they have been good enough to compete in the SPFL. That's without a doubt. The money that we thought we were going to be getting are spent on us. Obviously, it hasn't been done because we've hardly spent a thing. The main thing comes down to the management or the coaching of Rangers. Every player we've had has went downhill. They've regressed. Every single one of them. There's no one that we can turn around and say, "Oh, he's got better." Even Kolak's been here now for 12 weeks, and that's the last 2 weeks now. He's not been playing that quite as well as he has been. If it wasn't for him, we would be in the position we were in right enough, because he's been our best player by a long shot. It's the tactics, it's the boring football, it's the side-to-side garbage that we're watching. It's watching a bunch of pensioners getting re-signed letting contracts run out, players that are not trying, players that are not playing for the badge. There's guys in that park that shouldn't even be on the bench, never mind Timmy getting started. Kent, no kicked a ball all season. Tell a lie once. Tavernier, guys poo-pooing a donkey. Lundstrom, most of it 2 yards at least. We'll put our first team goalie to a second place, then put him back in again, expecting that he's going to be world class again. It's a shit show, and it's from top to bottom. And the thing is, we now have a club, not just one person, a whole club that are fully cowards. We've got players that are too cowardly to play for the jersey and take responsibility for the garbage that they're serving us up week after week. We've got a manager that's too cowardly to change his tactics and admit he's wrong. We've got a director of football is too cowardly to come out. He's quite long to come out by the time we were winning, but now that we're losing, he's never been seen once, not one statement. And we've got a board that are fully bullshit, telling us this is the best squad we've ever had. What a lot of fucking garbage. Sorry for swearing, I'm really, really angry. Now, after all this, we've got the official, but Will said, we've got the official Rangers Twitter, who's just won the hide and seek fucking championship because he's not been seen for 24 hours. Where's the statements?
Yeah, the thing on that, right, and we all know how, and I'll bring Scotty in, right, because I can see Scotty's head moving in all different directions, and I want to hear what he's got to say, Curry. The thing about the whole Rangers Twitter thing, right, I think we all know how social media works. The person that runs Rangers Twitter can only tweet or do things on Twitter when he's told that he can do so. So if there's nothing on Rangers Twitter, that's coming from board level, and I think we all know how this board act, how this board operate. And let's be honest, this is the way the board have acted and operated since the day they came in. But Scotty, I'll let you come in on some of Curry's points here.
Quite interesting. And I said before, I don't expect the board to come out and say anything because they've got nothing to say. There is nothing that they can say to make anything better at the moment. There is literally nothing. All they can... No. Let me finish. No, let me finish. All they can do is actually action something, and that's when they've got something to say. They can't make a comment and say we're going to stick with Gio, or we're going to see how things progress, or we're going to give them a vote of. It serves absolutely zero purpose. But I just want to touch on what you said, which was quite interesting. Fundamentally, yes, okay, the performances on the park can be directly correlated to Gio's tactics, and it is boring. But when you start naming individual players, this is the problem. Here lies the problem. There is no one to come in to take these guys' places. You can all of a sudden take out Lundstrom and chuck in Charlie McCann. Is that fair on McCann? Absolutely not. That's akin to leaving Leon King at the back in a back three on Sunday. Can we take out Tav? No, it's absolutely atrocious planning that we do not have a backup right back at this football club. It is gross negligence, and that alone should be sacked for. That is akin to relying on Goldson playing 70 games a year. Again, look what's happened there. Alan McGregor should be nowhere near this football club. He's 40 years old. He should be kicking his feet up on the sofa, watching these games, shouting at the team like the rest of us. Then we've got John McLaughlin and Robbie McCrory, who are nowhere near good enough to play for Rangers. We have Ryan Kent that's in the team playing 60 games a year. He's a winger. Yeah, okay, he's going to blow hot and cold. He shouldn't be relied on as much as he should. That's the problem. We've got no one coming in. John Bennett is turning around and going, this is the best squad that we've got, because that is what he is told. He is a 60-year-old man. He's not on the training ground. He's not in charge of the footballing department. There is one man in charge of the footballing department, and that is the shit show. That is the problem that we're facing. And if we don't get rid of him, we're just going to go around 180, 360 or whatever it is nowadays. It's appalling.
Corey?
I think he's talking rubbish.
All right.
I think he's talking absolute rubbish.
How?
Right.
I've literally just reinforced every point you've made. I've not argued with you.
No. It's no what you said, mate. It's how you said it, bud. Right? It's like try to put this into words. Sorry, but I'm bloody so angry. The side, the players, right? There are people that can come in. Scotty, your fucking granny should come in and do a better job than haven't you done this season. So
Curry, she's not registered to play.
They have got cover there. It's just that they're not getting used. What's the point in having young boys out there that are hungry, want to fight to get into the Rangers side, get into the first team, get first pick, play for Rangers? That's all they've ever known. That's all they've ever supported.
Listen, if you think that you can just chuck in an 18-year-old player, Adam Devine at right back, alongside Leon King and Davis and Barisic, and hope that we'll get a solid defence out of them, you're kidding yourself on. Adam Devine is not good enough to play.
Mate. Did you not hear what I said? Your granny would do better than they two.
Listen, the issue that we have, right, and I'm inclined to agree with Scott here, Curry, is we don't know if Adam Devine is good enough, right? Adam Devine could come in and have an absolute howler as well. We don't have, and like Scotty said, it's shocking that we don't have the players to come in and make a difference. The players that we have to come in and make a difference were supposed to be, for the very few occasions, the likes of Stephen Davis, Scott Arfield, and you've Glenn Kamara, who's been out injured. You've got Morelos, who started the season injured, unfit, whatever. We relied on Cholak because Roof's out injured. Lovelace is only 16, for God's sake. We can't expect a 16-year-old boy to come in and start playing. We do not have the depth at the football club to cover the positions that we are currently struggling in. Now, where you could argue your point, Curry, is Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent's constantly played on that left-hand side. Matondo's come in for one or two games. We've all decided he's not good enough. He can't play, so it goes straight back to Ryan Kent. There is certain positions, Curry, I agree with you that we could make changes, but there is other positions that unfortunately we can't because we simply do not have the players.
I disagree. I think we do have the players. I just think them because Gio has to get the balls to play them. We were talking last season, and even you guys, even you, Scotty, turned around and said, it's time we started using the younger players. We need to get them minutes. We need to get them time in the field. They're your future. We need to get them on the field.
Absolutely. But you can't take Tav out for 10 games and stick Adam Devine in and hope for the best. You've got to bleed these guys in. You've got to give them half an hour here or there. I mean, it's absolutely lunacy just to say, right, okay, we'll just take them all out and stick in the B team because they get humped left, right, and centre. It's not fair on them.
When was the last time it was done, Scotty?
Pardon?
When was the last time it was done then?
Well, there's a reason why. There's a reason why it isn't done.
20 minutes, 40 minutes.
Well, Alex Lowry gets game time. Charlie McCann gets game time. Adam Devine has played this season. Leon King is getting his fair share of minutes. We've also seen the striker play against. What,
King play again because there's nobody bloody else there to play this. That's the only reason he's getting a bloody game. Devine's had one game.
But what do you know what I would
Can't
say?
go with one game. So you can't turn around and say, "Oh, we've done it," because we've not done it.
The only thing I would say back to you, Curry, is Leon King. The only reason Leon King has got so many minutes is simply because of the injuries that we've got, right? But look at the comments that's been directed at the way of Leon King.
Yeah.
Look at he's not good enough. He shouldn't be in the team. He shouldn't be put in that position. He's only 18. So
see, that's the thing, Martin. That's what they're saying. They said he shouldn't be put in that position. He shouldn't be put in that position. Basically, I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Put him under a bloody bus.
And that's
put him on there.
And sorry to cut you off, Corey. I think that's the
Oh,
point.
sorry, that's fine, but it's, you know me, I'm just bloody ranting. I'm just raging.
That's all right. I think that's the point that Scotty's making. Scotty's making the point that if you cannot take Tav out for X amount of games and bring in Adam Devine, you have Adam Devine and Leon King in there making those mistakes, with Goldson out injured, with Davies out injured, with an inconsistent Borna Barisic at left back, then that 2-1 defeat at St Johnstone becomes a 4 or 5-1 defeat at St Johnstone. That 3-0 humping that we got off of Celtic becomes a 6 or 7-0 humping off of Celtic.
How do you know?
Because we struggled against Queen of the South at home with all these guys in the team.
We still won.
Against the League One team.
But guys, I think
We just get beat by fucking St Johnstone, Scotty. For fuck's sake.
Guys, I think what this whole conversation is highlighting is the fact that the director of football has had an absolute car crash, because we don't have strengthened this. We had a backup right back that we never saw, who's currently on loan to Lech Poznan or some other mob in Poland, because he wasn't deemed good enough, and they didn't think to bring somebody in to replace him, which left us Adam Devine. Now, I agree with Scotty and Martin, right, that Adam Devine can't come in for 6, 7, 8, 9 games on a run, right?
Agreed.
But surely the last European game, Tav's on one leg. Give the guy 15 minutes. The campaign's finished anyway. Yeah, I mean, the campaign's finished. Give the guy game time, right? The squad's not deep enough because the director of football hasn't signed the players he's supposed to sign. Now, is that because the manager didn't identify them? Or is it because he identified them, he went to the board and the board went, "You're not getting the money"? We don't know why that is, right? But the top and bottom line is the squad isn't deep enough, right? It's not deep enough because we don't have players. I mean, why did they get rid of Zakowski? He wasn't playing anyway. Surely he could stick in for a couple of games at Livingston and St Johnstone if he's even a serviceable fullback, which we don't know, because what did we see him? We saw him in a cup tie at Annan or something. That's about all we saw him in. And then they said, not good enough, and they punted them.
I've seen him a few times in the B team. Adam Devine was a better right back. But
they still won't play Adam Devine. So why did they not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's bring in somebody that can play there. You know what I mean? Put James Sands to right back. He can apparently play all the way across the back. Put him to right back. Do something.
I know there is things that we could have tried, but it's just we shouldn't be in the situation that we're in. Curry, there's people in the comments asking if you'll become an MP.
Meet our Christ.
Curry, there's no way you can become an MP because you tell the truth too often.
They're being left. I'm sorry for getting off a wee bit, but I'm that pissed off about what's happening. And I think we're all the same. I think every single one of you are under the same opinion about this whole club at the moment. Is that we're getting shafted. We are getting totally shafted. We're having to go in there and watch a manager that's as inspirational as granny porn. We can. And on that, I'll leave it with you guys. Talk to you later.
Always a pleasure, Curry.
Right, look after yourself. See you later.
Cheers,
guys.
pal.
Bye-bye.
You've got to leave it on that lovely wee note there. That's now in my head. Mark, what do you take for that conversation?
Well, I agree with you all, really, to be perfectly honest. Gio's trying to save his job. Simple as that. So Gio's, in his desperation, he's trying to get players that are tried and tested to play for him. Simple as that. That's what's going to happen. Now, it's unfair to fling young boys in, which we would all see when we're playing well. By all means, put young boys in. But like you said, young Leon King has been getting dogs abuse. I've actually read some of it, and I'm ashamed to be a Rangers fan. Some of the crap that young boy's getting. He's an 18-year-old boy learning his trade. He's been flung into the middle. He's the only fit centre-half at the club. Now, see, for anybody that can even think about trying to give that boy a hard time, I think is an absolute disgrace. They want to have a good look at themselves, because for me, that is fundamentally wrong. These young boys are trying to make their way in the game, and they're trying to make their way in life. Now, for a young boy to get all sorts of abuse, when that boy's trying to do his best, he's trying to hold together the Rangers defence. For me, it's madness. Absolute madness. Now, we need to build these young boys up, and we do, but Rangers fans have got a habit of building people up and knocking them down. You can be a hero one afternoon, and then the following week you can be a villain. For me, it's that bipolar thing. It drives me absolutely insane. To say these young boys, we should be getting behind them. We should be building them up. We should be bleeding them into the squad the way that Leon King was. But as I say, circumstances have changed. But trying to fling young boys, taking Tavernier out and flinging young boys in here and there and everywhere, you're setting these young boys up for a fall, and you could probably ruin their career and scar these young boys for life. Where they could get hammerings, proper doons, and all of a sudden these young boys are in their shell and they're no one to play anymore. So for me, you can't fling young boys into sides that aren't doing well. Different if we're playing well and we're flying, everybody's confident. By all means, fling young boys in. And I think that's what Scotty was trying to get at. But it just ended up in a mad melee of shouting and bawling and everything.
Just before
2 seconds. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Mark, absolutely spot on. And do you know what? I'm so angry at Gio for stitching up Leon King. So angry. Yeah, what kind of manager would let his 18-year-old centre-back go against two strikers? I know they don't have to be the best in the world, but they're both physical, they're both quick, and they've both played hundreds of games of football. What kind of manager lets his 18-year-old centre-back go against two of them by himself?
Yeah, and can I just say, listen, see if there's anybody out there who's got the opinion that Gio can still do it, that Gio's still the man, please give us a phone. See, like Curry, it's great when people have different opinions. It's great when people disagree because it leads to conversation. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with folk disagreeing, by the way. I think we're now in a society where people are afraid to disagree and they don't want to have different opinions. And if people have different opinions, it's an argument. No, it's a conversation. So, 0141 628 7237. If you want to phone in and have your say, have a debate, agree, disagree, whatever, I want to hear from you. 0141 628 7237. That sounded awfully radio-y, posh, didn't it? That was rehearsed, and I swear it wasn't rehearsed. That's just how naturally good I am.
This is not your first time, is it?
This is not my first time.
But next time you go to a hairdresser, it will be your first time.
It will be my first time, yes. It's getting very, very close. Very, very close to man bun time. Scotty, I want to take you back to your point now on the St Johnstone game, which was, for me, the decision that Gio made to go to that makeshift three at the back, for me, was one of the most baffling decisions that I think he's actually made since he came to Rangers. I don't understand the decision. I don't understand the decision to go to that formation for a start, right? I don't get that. And then I certainly do not understand why, if he's going to go with that, and the decision he's going to make is to take Davies off and leave Leon King at the back himself. I do not get it.
I've thought about this loads, and I've come to the conclusion that Gio hasn't actually got a clue. He's looked at the clock, 30 minutes, 2-0 down. Where do we go from here? He hasn't got a clue. He chucked Morelos on the park. Morelos didn't even know where he was playing. He didn't know what he was doing. It's not like they've rehearsed this on the training ground. Mm-hmm. He could have easily just taken off Davis and Leon King and put Sands at the back. Sands has played just as many games as Leon King at centre-back. But no, he did that. And then where was Barisic playing? Where was Tav playing? Sands would occasionally appear at the back as in a back four just to cover his ass for a bit and then get shunted back into midfield. But there was no cohesion, no plan, no structure. That was a manager throwing a Hail Mary. But a Hail Mary would have some form of structure or plan to it, some reason to it. Gio had none. He hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that was absolutely mad for me. So if you're watching on YouTube, please do give the show a like. It helps spread. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching, which is a little bit more than normal. So if you are watching for the first time, or you've watched before but you haven't yet subscribed, please do subscribe. We're just under 100 away from 7,000 subscribers. And of course, if you enjoy the content and you want more, then you can become a member and get access from up to four extra shows a week, I think it is. We're pretty much 6 or 7 days a week we're on. So there's plenty of extra content if you do want to become a member. We're about 25 members, away from 200. So yeah, join the Rabble community if you do wish. Well, if just let's just not go over the St Johnstone game, but we'll talk about it briefly. We spoke about it before we came on. We started off okay. We had control. We had 1,001 corner kicks. We had about 100 shots and about 3 on target. We looked okay. We looked in control. But for me, it was inevitable. And it's not just me sitting here after the game, but it was inevitable that St Johnstone were going to take the lead. And then once St Johnstone did take the lead, we never really looked like getting back in there.
We had loads of the ball. We had all the possession. They scored the first time they were up the park. But let's be honest, their keeper had absolutely nothing to do.
No.
And it was exactly the same against Livingston. You know what I mean? All the possession. Livingston manager came out after the game 2 weeks ago and said, we'll let Rangers throw in as many crosses as they wanted. We knew we could deal with it. We ended up that game with 5 attackers, but the game plan was still the same. The game yesterday, we ended up with 3 at the back, but the game plan didn't change. He didn't change the way he tried to play. It was out to the wing, cross it in, out to the wing, cross it in. It doesn't work. Against Livingston, we took a shot from the edge of the box, scored. Yesterday, Tav takes a shot, it goes in. Lundstrom has a shot, hits the bar. You know what I mean? When we're shooting and it's on target, we're either scoring or it's getting close. But let's just continue putting the ball out wide and putting crosses in. With 20 corners yesterday. 20 corners. Didn't even look like scoring off any of them. Because we didn't change what we did. It was exactly the same all the time. There is no... I mean, to go back to Mr. Warburton, his plan B was do plan A better. We don't have a plan B to even do plan A better. It's just, this is the way I'm playing football. And if it doesn't work, I'll change the personnel, but we'll keep doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's just not working. It's just not good enough. I mean, you're right. As soon as they scored yesterday, there was only one team winning that game.
Yeah.
Because their keeper had absolutely nothing to do, despite the fact we had about 6,000% possession and however many corners and shots and all the rest of it. I don't recall the guy making one save. Okay, we hit the frame of the goal twice. So what? I mean, they had 3 chances and scored 2 of them, and McGregor had a decent save. That's it.
And the thing was, the goalkeeper looked as if you could take a shot into him and score. He didn't look great. But we do have another caller ending 446. Welcome to the Rabble.
Hello, mate.
Hello, how's it going?
Right. I listen to your podcast. I live in Manchester.
Oh. I'm actually half Mancunian, believe it or not.
Listen, I'm a Celtic supporter.
All right.
I feel sorry for you a little bit, but what you are going through is the exact same as what happened to Celtic 2 years ago. We wanted Lennon out. They wouldn't sack him. Edward dropped, just like Morelos, don't want to play. Kent was just like Christie, don't want to play. It seems to just be the exact same as what happened to Celtic 2 years ago. And what you're going to get now, if Hearts beat you Wednesday, you're going to have protests, banners, and screaming and shouting to get rid of the board. The exact same as what happened to Celtic. So I hope you get rid of Gio as soon as possible, because it ain't going to help you keeping them there. That's what I'd like to say.
No, it's certainly not going to help us keeping Gio there. I think the issue that obviously Celtic had, and obviously the protests and stuff like that, I think that because of the reaction that the Rangers supporters had to that, I don't think we'll be quite as willing to put ourselves in that same position. I think we learned slightly from what happened with Celtic, because obviously there was the shark thing and that blew up. But Mark, look, the caller's right. And by the way, I don't mind other fans from other teams phoning up as long as they're respectful. The caller absolutely is.
But I do feel sorry for you. I ain't joking. I ain't just saying this because I went through it with Celtic. We support different teams, but we're still passionate about our football club.
Yes.
But the people on the boards, both boards, they don't give a monkey's about us. They only want the pennies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like the caller says, Mark, it's not going to get any better with Gio there. And we have all the issues with the board and the director of football, etc., etc. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, I respect the call for phoning in. He's no wrong, is he? I mean, it's lightning striking twice. Maybe not in the same place, right enough, but yeah, look, you're obviously you've felt the pain. We're feeling it at the minute, and it's swings and roundabouts. But hopefully, as I said, if we can get shot of Gio, there's always hope, and that, at the moment that's all we've got. But as I said,
Kevin Muscat might be all right. He's the next Rangers man, and I know it's the J League, but look what happened to us with Ange. All the Celtic fans didn't know who he was. They didn't really want him.
Listen, sometimes it is just your luck. Listen, thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it.
Okay, pal. Take care.
All right.
Take it easy.
I just want to say thank you very much, but that is a new low.
Why?
Celtic fans taking pity on us. That's a new low.
Well, for us, yeah, that's I suppose. But do you know what? It's better than the arguing and the screaming and the shouting for me. I've got absolutely no issue with that at all.
Fair play. I mean, he was completely respectful and you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Quite articulate, which was a surprise. But
yeah, well, he's from Manchester, isn't he?
So is half my family. Right?
Enough said.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But look, this enjoys the game, Mark. A few people made the comments that this was coming. The performances, this result was coming. Cholak has probably kept their heads just above, just treading the water with some of the goals that he's scored. As soon as his performances even dipped slightly, then this was always going to happen, and it's happened, and it's shown that yes, the recruitment's not been great. Yes, the board aren't great, but Gio's tactics-wise, never mind coaching-wise, tactics-wise, does not have a Scooby.
No, it's no. I don't even think it's tactics-wise. I think he's at the stage where he's panicking and he's trying anything. He's just seeing if that will that work? Will it not work? I said that a few weeks ago. It's as if he's second guessing himself. He's will I do that? No, because if I do that, the crowd will go on their backs, and if I do that, then well, if I take him off, who do I put on? So, as I said, the boy's fighting for his life. To be perfectly honest with him, he's fighting for his job, and you can understand that. But us as fans, we don't want to see that. We want somebody that knows exactly what he's doing. He's self-assured, and he knows how to pull things out of a hole. So, and that's not what you're getting, as I said, and I hark back to what I said earlier about it's a character thing and a personality thing, and I just don't think he's strong enough for the job. It's as simple as that. Anytime any manager has done well at Ibrox is because they've been very, very strong characters. So, as I said, for me, he's just second guessing every move that he makes, and it's just shambolic, absolutely shambolic.
Let's discuss finances, shall we? Very quickly. 01416287237 if you want to get your point across. The phone lines will be closing in about 7 minutes, so make sure you get your calls in, and we will very quickly before the pod finishes discuss Wednesday and what could possibly happen. But yeah, let's have a quick discussion about finances. And Scotty, I'll come to you first. I put a question on YouTube in the chat. Will the board stick with Gio as manager? 470 votes, 68% say yes, 32% say no. Is that, Scotty, because we don't have the money to get rid of the manager?
Nonsense. Just utter nonsense, and it's a line that's being peddled that the board can now hide behind, because the numbers are there. They 1 minute they were proudly talking about the numbers and the income. I had told myself, bearing in mind we've already had the season ticket money, which in theory should be what runs the club for the season, but we know it doesn't. We run at a deficit. Then we've got the merchandising income that has surpassed anything that we've ever done, and that's brought in more than 30 million quid. If we want to talk about the Gerrard money, Patterson money, Bassi money, Aribo money, that's north of 50 million quid, right? So we know that's there, albeit it can come in installments. But then, same as anything, when you buy a player or sell a player or even sack a manager, you don't pay them off in a lump sum, it's paid in installments. It's utter nonsense. We've got the Champions League money. Yeah, okay, that doesn't come to the end of the season. But I tell you what does, that 180 quid minimum that they took off everyone at the start of the campaign. Mm-hmm. So for them to say that they don't have the money or hide behind that is complete and utter nonsense. Again, it goes back to the board have got us into this mess. It is up to the board to get us out of this mess and find a suitable replacement. As far as money goes, they've earmarked 10 million quid for Sands and Tillman. I tell you what, if it means losing them two, get rid of Gio. If it costs 10 million quid and that's what we have to sacrifice, get rid, because there's absolutely no point in having those two players at the club anyway if they're managed by the current incumbents.
Yeah. We have a call in. I can see Scott's calling in. Scott, I've got one just before you. Please do call back, though, because you have been trying to get through it, and I really, really do apologise. But Carol, get in there before you. Carol, how are you?
Oh, fine. I was just wondering, you're saying it's Ross Wilson in this. Can anybody explain to me why do we have to slow down to let Tav or Barisic take corners or throw-ins? Because I've seen the boy Tillman a couple of times throwing the ball down because he was wanting to take it, but he's got to wait for Barisic. The same when it's a corner, you've got to wait for Tav coming up to put in the same ball. Every free kick's got to be either Tavernier or Barisic. You have to vary things. You can't have it. You give the team a chance to settle in their own box, to wait for him throttling down the park to take it. Wait for a throw-in. Our throw-ins are absolute garbage. What is the coaching staff doing about this? Surely you work at things at training. There's no movement in your team. You see Barisic looking about and all when he's taking the throw-in. Nobody moves. Ken hides behind a player. Now, I don't understand it. You can't blame Wilson for that. You can't blame the board for that. And let's face it, what did the board do? If these are wanting rid of the board, do we sell the club?
Well, that's a big issue. Yeah, no, and I was going to bring that up, Carol. You're absolutely right. It's so much easier to get rid of a manager than any other part of the football club. That's why you can't just get rid of a board because who's there then to put the money in and run the club? You could director of football, of course, you could sack a director of football. You can't just sack a full squad of players. So you're really left with a manager and a director of football.
And the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Which is my big bugbear. Because I don't see any coaching's being done.
You're not the only one, Wilf. We have been saying for weeks that the team don't look as fit. They don't chase. They don't play. The corners are terrible. The throw-ins are terrible. The passing, just everything about the way that we are playing is terrible.
Yep. I mean, to pick up on Carl's initial point about the game slowing down so that certain players can take set pieces, it really grinds my gears. It really, really grinds my gears. I mean, we're trying to get a bit of tempo into the play. We're winning all these corners, all these attacking throw-ins, and we've got to wait until James Tavernier goes on one side or Barisic goes on the other side, and the corner's always the same. And there's other times when we start the build up, we'll take a really quick throw in and we'll get to the halfway line and then we'll just stop and come back because there's no movement. We're trying to get the game going really quickly and there's just nothing happening. I mean, we've got one of the Netherlands' greatest ever strikers as our first team coach, and we can't score goals. I'm not quite sure how that works. Roy Mackay would score goals for fun at the highest level, and we can't score. We've gone backwards. Striking wise, we've gone backwards. The fitness levels don't seem to be there. What are they doing? You know, I mean, the game's slowed down because the players aren't fit enough to run the way they used to run. And it was only 6 months ago that they were doing 120 minutes twice in 3 days. Now they're struggling to last an hour. Struggling to last 70, 80 minutes. There's something not right. And I know the players are shit out of confidence because the way we're playing and everything else, and there's no game plan. It's rotten from top to bottom. I mean, as far as getting rid of the board's concerned, you can't do that. You're right, Martin. It's easy to get rid of the manager, right? The problem we've got where the director of football is concerned, it appears to me that he runs the whole show. He runs the whole show. He's got the directors in his pocket. You always see him, and he's always with them. He's laughing and joking with them. He's always with them. He's obviously in charge of the football department. It's just, I think he's got far too much power.
Yeah.
Which means that he's probably, in his mind, he's indispensable, so he can do what he wants. But to me, he's made too many mistakes. It's going backwards, and it's going backwards on his watch. So if he's the man that's making the football decisions, the buck's got to stop with him. Unfortunately, that takes the manager with him, but that's just the way it is.
The issue, Carol, is do we see this board, this current board, John Bennett, Douglas Park, whoever else is in there, as having a spine, having a backbone, and be able to make a decision?
Well, let's start with Douglas Park. Douglas Park was more into motorsport. The only thing he was into Rangers with was supplying bloody buses. Let's face it. He was more into motorsport. I mean, I remember Douglas Park since I was a wee boy. You know, every bus I went on, Rangers supporters got Parks of Hamilton, Celtic supporters get Doigs. Simple as.
Well, now
Celtic's getting Parks of Hamilton and all, you know.
Celtic.
He's made his money out of football, but he's put money into Rangers. They've all got soft loans. So you can't say the board done this, the board that, the board this. If the board takes up all their money out, they're going to get their money back, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just say it's all down to the board.
No.
It's down to the bloody players in the park. It's down to that coaching staff. They must be able to tell Ryan Kent, you don't need to hit the Broomlawn stand every time you shoot for whatever ground you're playing on.
You don't need to do 6 million stepovers.
Aye, it's still no beating, man.
And by the way, Celtic are Parks of Hamilton's biggest client, biggest customers. So there you go.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
Well, I mean, I'm away a long time, but it used to be Parks of Hamilton were only Rangers buses, Doigs for Celtics.
I think Doigs are. Listen, mate, I could sit here and talk buses all day because I was a bus driver. But yeah, I think
I was a bus passenger.
There you go.
But you never drove me.
No.
I remember Sammy that drove the Rangers bus because he used to drive our bus.
Well, there you go. I don't think people watching want to hear about mine and your bus tales, Carol. So, listen, buddy, thank you for phoning. I really appreciate it.
Right, okay. Cheerio. Good night.
Speak to you soon. Yeah, there you go. If Scott phones in, I'll answer. If not, then that is the phone lines closed. Because Scott has tried to phone in all night and somebody just keeps nipping in front. We don't answer anonymous or withheld phone numbers for obvious reasons. Mark, I am just absolutely fed up with the negativity. How do we make it stop?
Really don't know. That's a $7 million question, and that's what they're saying. $7 million to get rid of the Geo and the background staff. So I don't know. As I said, for me, clean sweep. You need to get shot every day. I think some of the directors need to fall on their swords as well, as far as I'm concerned. I think you need to bring. If you go back to when Gerrard came in, there was a buzz about the club. There was a feel-good factor. We looked as if we were progressing, heading in the right direction. We gave Gerrard time. We need somebody that's going to inspire us again. We need somebody that's going to come in with a philosophy, with new ideas. We need a decent director of football. It's, as I said, there's so many things that need fixed at the moment, and it's really, really frustrating that it's got to this stage there. We're talking about board members needing to go, directors of football.
I hate talking about boards, and I hate talking about directors of football. I even hate talking about tactics. You know what I mean? I just want to talk about Rangers winning. You know, that's all I want.
As I said, this is where we're at the minute, and this is not going to get any better. It really is not going to get any better. And like you, I am absolutely fed up coming on here, and I feel as if I'm just repeating the same old shit over and over and over again because it's nothing's changing. The only thing that's changing is it's getting bloody worse. The team's getting worse. The decisions for Gio's getting worse. The silence is getting worse for the board. As I said, I have no idea. The only way you fix it is to get shot up. Fresh cut, get shot out of the lot of them, and try and bring in people that can move this club forward.
Right, I have to bring this comment up because if I don't, it's really difficult to see the comments, right? Because they go so fast. I honestly can't describe to people watching. You guys here will know because you can see them. They're literally just going like that, right? But I've been put up a couple of times for not pulling up any of Emil's comments. So, Scotty, do you think the fans were right to confront Tav at St Johnstone in Perth at that horrible stadium?
I watched it back, and I can understand the frustrations and were they right or were they wrong. You can't help your emotions at the time, and personally, I wouldn't have done it, but that's just who I am. It's more of a case that I think they just wanted to vent a frustration and have someone listen. So I'm kind of glad in a way that Tav did. I don't think there's anything that he could have said to make him feel better. I kind of get the idea that, yeah, okay, go over and applaud. I think the comments potentially are missing the point as well. I think after a performance like that, the last of anyone's worries is the fact that players come over and applaud, because essentially what they're walking into is a lion's den. Just to have people hurl abuse at them, that isn't going to serve anyone purpose. Yeah, I get it. It feels like they're hiding, but I genuinely don't think they are. In terms of people to confront, I don't think that there is anyone necessarily to confront, because I think everything is glaringly obvious and it's out in the open what the frustrations are, and shouting and screaming in someone's face is never ever going to be the answer to find a solution to our problem. In terms of board members and chairmen and everything, I don't necessarily see the board members actually being active board members. I think they're very much aware that they don't know the ins and outs of how to run a football club. Therefore, they're employing the people to do that on their behalf, i.e. Stuart Robertson and Ross Wilson, and they're doing an absolutely horrific job. So in respect of that, in fact, their decisions should be made there. Do we trust them to actually make the right appointments? Again, that's up for a massive scrutiny. If they keep Stuart Robertson in place, Ross Wilson goes, do we trust Stuart Robertson to find an appropriate director of football to then find a new manager? Again, these are the question marks. How do we make ourselves feel better? First of all, Ross Wilson and Gio need to go. We need a bit of a clear out in that respect. We also need a clear out of the playing staff and a bit of a turnover, a bit of a freshness and a feel good. But from that point, when we do that, we actually need communication and a reinforcement of a message, or any message of the direction where we want this football club to go. Because at the moment, it just feels like, and people have said this for almost 2 years, that they're more interested in finding commercial revenues from us and taking our money to put into the football club. But see, when we are giving and giving and giving, and we are seeing no output, there's a limit to how far that goes. And if there's no strategy or forward thinking, that will stop, the football club will stop, and things will get worse.
The real what I take from what Scott has just said, Wilf, is did the board care enough about the football side of it? Did they genuinely care? Because I think it's evident that they don't have a clue what they're doing. They don't know how they do not know how to run a football club. I was thinking about this while I was in work today, and I'm sitting and I'm going, Douglas Park, John Bennett, the Graham Park. You know, you sit and you look at them in the football, and they look confused as if they don't know the offside rule. That's the way they come across, is they have absolutely no idea what football is or how to run our football club. So apart from the fact that we're all out there buying strips, we're all out there buying tickets, we're pumping millions into that football club, as long as we keep doing that, do they care enough about what happens on the pitch?
Don't know, because I can't speak for them. I don't know them well enough to say what. I mean, John Bennett tells the world he's a Rangers fan. I've got no doubts that he grew up a Rangers fan, but obviously he's lived abroad for years, etc. Doesn't make him any less of a fan.
And he proves that he talks utter pish.
Yeah, and there's that as well, right? But the business side of it, they've done spectacularly well because they've brought in shed loads of money. As Scotty says, he listed off all the money that they've brought in. They brought in. To me, they're totally out of touch with the supporters. They all purport to be Rangers fans, but they're completely out of touch for me. And the thing that nailed that for me was when they had that ridiculous decision to play them in Australia, which they then went back on, right? Because I get that it's Bisgrove. When we went through this at the time, I get it's Bisgrove's job to bring in money. And Bisgrove's not a Rangers man. Nobody's ever kidding
the football's nothing to do with him.
No, exactly. So he said, look, I've been offered this, whatever it was, £5 million to play one game of football against them in Australia and play somebody else, play some local Australian team. The board should have went, that's fabulous, that we get as a fortune, but we can't play them in a friendly. That's just not what Rangers do. But they went, aye, okay, we'll do that. They're completely out of touch now. If they were the Rangers men they're supposed to be, they would have looked at that and just went, no, we don't do that. We just simply don't do that. The fans won't wear it. And it was at that moment that any goodwill that board had with the supporters is gone. It went at that. To me, it went at that moment. The goodwill just disappeared, and because it's now not happening on the park, the silent majority are becoming the vocal. They're becoming a more vocal and a bigger minority because people are really, really fucking hacked off with it, and everything's just coming up. They need to turn this around, and it's as somebody put in the comments earlier, it's like moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. I mean, they're not actually addressing anything. I mean, it's very, very noticeable during the 55 season and the run up to the Scottish Cup when we were getting to Seville. The directors were all over the place. There were statements and they were in the media. They were talking this. They were telling us that. Things get tough. They're hiding. They're absolutely hiding. They don't know the answers. And because they don't know the answers, and you're probably right, Martin, they don't know enough about football to even hazard a guess at the answers. We don't know the answers, right? But we clearly know more about football than them because at least we're willing to put our heads above the parapet and say, look, this is what we think. If we're wrong, okay, we'll put our hands up and say we're wrong. They're not even coming out saying something that could be wrong. They're saying absolutely nothing. They've battened down the hatches. And that to me means they don't have a clue what's actually going on in the park. They don't have a solution. They don't have a reason for what's happened. They just don't seem to know what's going on. It's worrying. And something has to be done soon because we're just limping from one crisis to another, and I don't think confronting the players yesterday was the right thing to do. I'll get hammered for this, right? It's not the Rangers way, right? I'm a traditionalist. I'm old school. It's not the Rangers way. And the point about the players not coming over, I was at the game yesterday, as I said, right? Now, a couple of the players started to come over, right? And the amount of abuse getting thrown at them from the fans, and understandably, it's no fucking wonder they turned around and walked away, right? So there was collates, and I think Scott Wright started coming over towards the supporters, right? And they were getting all sorts of abuse. And even if they couldn't hear it, they could see what was getting. The reaction of the supporters towards them. So it's no wonder they didn't come over. That's not an excuse. They should still at least have clapped as they were going to offer whatever.
They deserved the reaction.
Of course, I'm not saying for a minute they didn't deserve the reaction, but there's people slaughtering the players for not going to the supporters. They did, but they shot it.
Do you know what? You go and you take it. You take it on the chin.
Aye.
You take the reaction.
There's human beings. We've spent the last hour and 23 minutes saying that there's no heart on this team. There's no fight. There's no desire. They don't care enough. They're obviously going to fucking run away. Look, Lundstrom bottling out of that. There was another one nobody's mentioned as well. With Čolak, I love Čolak to bits. It's 0-0. It's early in the game. The ball goes through to their keeper. It's 60-40 in Čolak's favour, and he just stood back and let the keeper get the ball. Just go through the keeper, go through the ball a lot. If it's a free kick, it's a free kick. If you get it right, it's a goal. The keeper shites it. You said yourself he didn't look like a very good keeper. We didn't put any pressure on him. The team's too nice. And the fact that the players walked away when the support started giving them grief tells you that they're too nice. They don't have the heart for it. They really don't. And I would have thought guys like Tavernier's been here long enough. Scott Arfield's one of our own. McGregor's a Rangers man. You would have thought they would have had the heart to at least, try to put. I mean, Morelos did it early on in his time. Remember, he missed a penalty in the League Cup final, 2019. The next game, he apologised. Everyone, you've nothing to apologise for. You just missed a penalty. Right? He had the balls at that point to go to the support and say, look, I'm sorry. Right? None of these have even tried to do that. They've got... There's massive problems all through our club, and it's not just the playing staff, and it's not just the director of football. You've got me going off on one again, and I've tried not to do this,
No,
but anyway,
no,
it's frustrating. But you wanted a positive note, right? Before we go, you wanted something positive, right? And I know you're going to speak about the Hearts game, but let's get something positive, and something that I will get absolutely slaughtered for on Twitter, and I really don't care, right? Our ladies team reached a cup final yesterday.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Right.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely phenomenal. They've never won the thing. They're the only one of the semi-finals that hadn't won the thing. They've never won the thing. The final is on the 11th of December at Tynecastle against Hibs, which was a surprise. I thought Glasgow City would beat them.
Yeah, we're going to cover. Well, I mean, I've just said that I don't like Douglas Park and I can't stand them, so I don't know if Rangers will give us access, but I will definitely try and do something.
Will it be down to Rangers, though, because it's the SPFL's
well,
final?
we shall see. We shall see. We're going to come to that obviously at a later date because we have loads of stuff to do throughout the World Cup, so we need plenty of content throughout that.
I just wanted to bring it up so that I get a bit more abuse on Twitter for being a weirdo. So.
No,
apparently you're a weirdo if you want teams associated with Rangers to do well, but that's one of those things, I suppose.
It's just social media for you.
Absolutely.
Scotty, I've got no issues with the fans having a word with Tav at the end of the game. No problem with that at all. Venting a wee bit of anger. Tav stood there, took it. I don't know if he said anything back because I don't know. But this game on Wednesday, a few questions, right? So I'll split them between the three because I don't want to be here all night. Number one, I'll ask you the first question, Scotty. How much does the game mean on Wednesday, or are we all at the point as supporters where even if we win that game, it changes absolutely nothing?
It changes absolutely nothing. And I think once the minds have been made up, it would take a monumental shift to do an about turn, and it would take not only the results going in our favour, but a significant upturn of performances. Not performances in terms of energy, but a completely different style. It would need to be so positive. But I just don't see it happening because the energy that is going to be at Ibrox is not. It's going to be negative. It's not going to be a positive one. And you can't imagine the players walking out there with the best will in the world, as positive as they can be, to then feel that from the stands, to then go on and put a positive performance. I've got absolutely no doubt they've got the capability to win. But it's just not going to be pretty. I think I don't know if this is going to go on and ruin your next questions, but I reckon we'll see some form of protest or definitely vocalising displeasure. What I'd suggest is, because I know we've got the 2-minute silence before the game on Wednesday. Obviously, I know we'll be respectful of that. And if we are going to vent some form of frustration, I would probably go down the route of some kind of walkout. You're on mute, mate. This is so
I'm on mute. I'm struggling. I actually shouted I need to have a smoke. Didn't realise I was on mute. A walk out or a walk in type kind of protesty thing.
It's the thing before the game, so everyone needs to be there.
Yeah,
for the 2-minute silence.
How toxic, Mark, is it going to be on Wednesday?
I would say probably as toxic as most of us have ever seen, I think. And that's saying something. I think that it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be nice for the players, but I agree with Scott. I dare say there'll be some sort of a protest, whether it be even some banners or whatever. There's definitely going to be especially the Union Bears are going to put something together, I would think. But yes, it's not going to be a nice place. And you know what? It's only going to get worse if we get down a goal early doors. It's going to be a really, really horrible place, especially for the players.
Will that change the atmosphere, Mark? If we go a goal behind, or will the temper, the attitude, the altitude, I can't think of the right word. But will What's the word I'm looking for, Mark?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I
don't know what
cannot
you're
think
talking
of
about.
it.
The temperature. What? Yeah.
Temperature, the temperature, the altitude. What are we doing? Flying a plane? Will the temperature no already be sky high, Mark?
Well, I think so, but I think that it'll just compound the fact that we're all everybody. You see tonight, everybody that's come on the phone has been raging, absolutely raging, and that's how we feel. So, and the problem is, it's probably worse now than it has been because we've had that wee bit of success. We've done 55. We looked as if we were going in the right direction. We had that amazing run to the Europa League final. So the problem is that we've tasted that, and we were blown away by it. And now from that, the way it's dropped off is it's disgusting. It should never happen. All right, players can have off days, teams can have off days, people lose form.
We've had an off year, Mark.
We have
Apart from
see for the
obviously
start of
you.
the season. For the start of the season, it's been awful. It has been awful. So, as I said, the atmosphere is going to be very, very toxic. And as I said, I think that if we get done a goal, and this team don't play well when they're nervous at all. They don't play well when they're expected to do stuff. So, as I said, I said it before. This is only going to end one way, and the sooner it ends, the better. It's just it's frustrating, very, very frustrating.
Can I just say to all the people in the comments who are slagging me, I would love to see you try and do this for an hour and a half and remember all the words that are in your head. I don't have notes. You know what I mean? So, I'm trying. Altitude, but that's terrible. Well, final point to you, and I'll let everybody who in the comments who seem to want to go and watch I'm a Celebrity.
Can we not just ban all them?
Well, I'm thinking about it. I've been thinking about it. James, how am I spelling that? How am I pronouncing that? Dalrymple. Been saying it for weeks on here. The team has no heart or desire playing for the checks, not the badge. 449 super chat. Thank you very, very much, James. We've talked about that all night. The players they've just got absolutely nothing. But more on the Hearts game, Wolf. And again, thank you very much, James, for the support. It's going to be toxic. The temperature's going to be high. I was going to burst into a Weather Girls song there, but I've decided against that. Are the fans right to protest? And by the way, when we say protest, we're not them. We won't be throwing sharks. We might raise our voices and be angry, but we will certainly protest, I would hope, in the right manner. But if the fans get every right, Gio, Wolf, I call you Gio there, Wolf, to do it.
They have, as I said.
Are they right to do it is probably a better question.
Have to do something because the board's clearly not listening. As I said earlier, it's doing things like confronting players. It's not the Rangers way, but something needs to happen. Scotty nailed it when he said about Wednesday being our remembrance game, because for the first time in my living memory, or certainly first time that I can remember, we're not at home on Remembrance Weekend, which means that other lot are. So we'll see how that goes. So because it's our remembrance game, the board have dipped in because there won't be a protest before the game, because the Rangers support, generally speaking, I'd like to think are too respectful for that. There's a display getting put out tomorrow, which I'd imagine would be a poppy unless we forget the usual that we do, which we do really, really well. Then there'll be the 2-minute silence. I'd imagine they'll have the field gun to wake us all up as well.
Sorry, that's brilliant. Sorry.
But yeah, I think during the game there will be that'll be quite vocal against the board, quite vocal about getting. I mean, the thing that got me yesterday when it went 2-0, I don't know if it came through on the television, and I've just remembered about it. The St Johnstone fans started singing "Getting Sacked" in the morning.
Yes,
and a section of the Rangers support joined in.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you all you need to know. It's tomorrow it's going to be difficult.
Wednesday.
As Scotty said, you can't Wednesday. Sorry, you can't walk in late because obviously we've got the remembrance thing at the start. Walking out to me is counterproductive because if it's not going well, that's not really a good sign for the players. You know what I mean? Because if we get beat, that'll be 10 times worse than it's been since yesterday. And if it's not going well and everybody walks out, I could just see it getting even worse. So I don't really agree with walkouts. As we said at the start, the board's only going to listen to getting hit in the pocket, and you've already paid to be at the games. What's the point of leaving?
Well, people like to give their opinions. That way
people have got the right to do it. It's like I don't get people leaving early, but some people do it, and that's entirely their right. If folk want to do that, that's fine.
Just on that though, if you're walking out, you want the alternative protest to people being in the crowd is negative noises. A walkout is a lot more palatable than that. If the players still, bearing in mind, all that does is take away an atmosphere, which won't be a positive one anyway. If the players still can't perform in front of that, then that's a bigger fundamental issue. They will struggle more with 50,000 people on their back than they will with 20,000 people or 20,000 empty seats. Yeah. And that is the point. And yes, okay, they may have paid their money, but the optics to the board of directors is so much more significant. If they see people leaving, and if people don't come back, that puts the board in a position, and it puts them in a greater position than if people just boo at half time.
I get that, Scotty. But I mean, at Ibrox, people start leaving after 75 minutes anyway. So can you really tell the difference?
Yeah, you'll notice a huge difference if people leave after 15 minutes.
Oh, I just told
but they're not going to leave that early, are they? I mean,
this is it. They should.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Final question, and it's just a simple yes or no. And we'll end up because my dog's just come in and attacked me, and I told him I'd be finished in 2 minutes. So, will the board?
And of course, your dog can tell the time. Much the same as mine can.
Oh, listen, he's a collie. He's the smartest dog in the world. If the result does not go our way on Wednesday, will the board finally sack Gio, Scotty? Yes, no?
Yes.
Mark?
Don't think so.
Wolf?
No.
Will the board at any point, regardless of results, get rid of the manager, Scotty? Yes, no?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Wolf?
Eventually.
Right, okay, that will do us for tonight. Thank you very much to Wilf, Mark and Scotty. Thank you to every single person who tuned in. It really does mean a lot. Please do like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a wee follow on Twitter, retweets, likes on Facebook and shares and all that good stuff. We will be back on Wednesday with build up to the Hearts game, half-time analysis, and of course full-time reaction. And then on Thursday you'll have Rabble Extra for members. Friday you'll have another phone in, and on we go. I'm not 100% sure yet what's going to happen during the World Cup, but there will be content out there somewhere. But yeah, listen, that wasn't an easy watch for anybody or an easy chat for anybody. So thank you to everybody who called in. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to the guys on the panel. And we shall speak to you all again very, very soon.